Hey, what's up guys? My name is Matt, content producer for OddsJam, and today I'm going to be placing some bets specifically for the Thursday night football game between the Packers and the Cardinals. So unfortunately, my Monday night football bets didn't go too well, but I am still up overall on the week, and just from yesterday, that's mostly from NBA, so I'm up 203. And before I get into it, I did want to show you this page to say that you'll have bad days, but you'll profit overall. So it looks like this non-specified should go specifically to football. So in football, I'm up about 1,200. In basketball, even though it's only a week old, I'm up over 1,000. And that's all from positive EV betting. So I'm up 1,600 overall from positive expected value betting. So you'll have nights like last night with the Monday Night Football game where I go 0 for 2. But overall, you'll profit, and that's why I wanted to show you these pages and these numbers. So going into the bets, there's two of them I wanted to highlight that I've already placed here on DraftKings and Caesars. They're here on the expected value page. And the first one is this Chase Edmonds over 38.5 rushing yards. So looks like the OddsJam true line, the sharpest line. For those of you at home, the Pinnacle line, the true line has been rebranded to the OddsJam true line. OddsJam sharp line, OddsJam true line, the sharpest line out there, however you want to call it. I just want to say that previous videos you've heard us talk about Pinnacle, how that's the sharpest sportsbook out there. You probably heard that a million times. We're rebranding the Pinnacle line to the OddsJam sharpest line. So if you hear that, if you're wondering why the difference in phrasing, just know that it's the same thing. It's just been a little bit rebranded. So getting into it, the OddsJam sharpest line has this at minus 177. I got it on DraftKings at minus 115, as you see here. There's 100 I put on it, and it's a Chase Edmonds over 38.5 rushing yards. So for the football reasons why this is a good bet, let's look at Chase Edmonds' stats. So he is a running back for the Cardinals. He splits time with James Conner mostly, but he still plays the majority of the snaps. So the first thing I look at on bets like this is I want to look at snap percentage, because that's always kind of the most consistent game to game. Is if you get the snap percentage, normally the stats will come. You'll have some players that are, targeted or sometimes get the majority, like all the work when they play, but generally the snap percentage is the best way to go. So it looks like he's consistently around, normally above 60%, except for this weird game against Cleveland. And that was a weird game where the Cardinals kind of jumped out to a huge lead, and they kind of just milked the clock with James Conner. They kind of rested Edmonds, but normally he's up above 65%, around 60. And if you look at his rushing yards, so we got it at 38.5. Looks like he's hit that in every game except for 2. So even in the Cleveland game, he only had 4 carries, and he still broke one for 46 yards. And that would have 4 carries for 46 yards, and that would have hit the over. So in 7 games, he's hit this 5 times, and against the Packers, even though the Packers you think of, and they do have a high-flying offense, but the game on Thursday is going to be a little different because the Packers are missing so many players. I saw something on Twitter about all the guys they're missing, and they're missing a bunch of all-pros. Devontae Adams just got COVID, and he's out for Thursday night. So the Packers probably won't be able to sustain drives and score as many points as you're used to the Packers seeing, and which makes you believe that the Cardinals are going to have a lead and that they're going to be running the ball, and they'll do that in split time between Conner and Edmonds. But Edmonds is a little bit of he's a better running back. He's kind of the scat back. He is has a higher yards per carry. So if you look at his yards per attempt, obviously he had this gross game against San Francisco, but that was their worst game of the year by far. They put up 30 points in every game except for 1, and that was that weird game. And Kyler was hurt that game. You kind of they still won, so good on them for having a bad game and still winning. But you kind of just chalk that one up to an L. And every other game except for the Jacksonville one, which was another weird game. That part of that 31 points, I remember they had a pick 6. So they will kind of have these stinkers, but overall he's had a good yards per attempt. So every game except for those 2 stinkers were above 5. And if you look at James Conner's stats, he's kind of the goal line back, so his yards per carry, I would guess, I haven't actually confirmed this, so let's see if I'm right, I would guess isn't as good. So it looks like the best he had was last week for 6. Other than that, he's never been above 5. So that kind of highlights the difference in running backs. He seems to go over, so he doesn't have as high of highs. He seems to kind of be a little bit more consistent, but his snap percentage is lower. as you can see, he's never been above 60%, whereas Edmonds is almost always above 60%. And his yards per attempt isn't nearly as good. So Connor might actually get more carries, but Edmonds will probably have more yards. That seems to be how things have been trending. And with Connor, you really can't rely on him to stay healthy because he's been injury prone his whole year. So this bet for football reasons makes sense. My guess is why OddsJam, the sharpest line, has it at such a high percentage of hitting. So if we want to look at the odds converter calculator, so they have it at minus 177. That gives you about a 64% chance of hitting based on those odds. And if you want to look at the true line, if you take out the VIG, it was at minus 177 and plus 133. So minus 177 plus 133 looks like the true line is at minus 148. And we're getting it at minus 115. So you're getting almost the 30 points. That's why this is such a high percentage of a positive expected value. So for football reasons, it makes sense. I can understand why the OddsJam has this line because of the reasons I gave at such a higher percent chance of hitting based on what the sportsbooks are getting. So that's where I'm going to put my first 100. I locked that in here on DraftKings. You can get it either on DraftKings or BetMGM. I chose DraftKings just because I had more money in it. There's really no other reason to it. And then the next bet I really like, it's this Kyler Murray over 25.5 rushing yards. So again, kind of the similar logic. You figure that the Cardinals are going to be able to have more offensive possessions because the Packers, you assume, won't have as good of a game based on other injuries. Devontae Adams is hurt. Bakhtiari is still out. The Packers are missing a lot of good players. And let's look at Kyler Murray stats. So he is obviously good rushing quarterback. I mean, over or under 25.5, he could break that in one play. So if we want to look at his rushing, looks like he's actually only hit that in 2 games. He hit that against Minnesota, and he hit that against the Rams. So, and then he got hurt against San Francisco, which is why they only had 1, and it's been lower since. So you might wonder, why is this a sharp play if he's only hit it in 2 of the 7 games? And I would say that before the injury, he hit it in 2 out of 2. And, Tennessee was such a blowout, he didn't need a run. The Minnesota game was close. Jacksonville was, a weird game. And then the Rams, they really wanted that win. So in a game against the Packers, while I do think that they're going to be, they're going to win and that they're going to have more offensive possessions, this is a game that the Cardinals really need to get the 1 seed. So right now the Packers, along with the Bucks, and the Rams, but the Cardinals do have the win over them, are at the top of the NFC, right? And the Cowboys. So there's a lot of teams at the top of the NFC, but the Packers are one of them. The Cardinals, if they want to get the 1 seed, they need this win. They can't drop one to a game against the Packers where the Packers are banged up. I believe this game is home. Yeah, it's in Arizona, so they're going to be fired up, and it's a game that they really need. So my kind of logic for when to take a quarterback's rushing yards, I apply the same logic to Mahomes. Is in a game that they really need to win, the quarterback is going to run more. That's kind of just how it works. He's going to be willing to take a little bit more hits. He's going to be willing to run out more because it's a game they really need. So that's why you'll notice the 2 times it did hit were in important games. And obviously, the San Francisco game was important, but he got hurt, so he didn't run as much. The same thing happened last year. And against Cleveland, they jumped out to like a 20-0 lead, and the Cleveland just kept turning the ball over. That game was never close. And against Houston, I mean, look at the score, 31-5. They didn't need to do anything against Houston. So you kind of, as a running quarterback, he's not quite Lamar Jackson, where that's his best skill set. He's obviously an incredibly talented runner, but he's a better passer than Lamar Jackson is. So there's some games he doesn't need to. I think this is going to be a game where they're really going to need to win. And even though they should win because the Packers are banged up, they're going to kind of pull all the stops out. So that's the reason why I like it for football reasons. And if we want to take out the VIG and take out if we want to find out the percentage, so it's obviously a little over 6% positive expected value isn't as high as 11 for the other one. So you're not going to get as big of a difference between the true line that the OddsJam sharpest line has and what you're getting it at, but you're still getting it. So I got it on Caesars at minus 110. I have that here, minus 110. There's my 100. And so taking out the odds, so minus 146 and plus 111, so minus 146 plus, I think it was 111. Yes, so it looks like it has the true line at minus 125. We're getting it at minus 110, and the minus 125 gives it about a 55.5% chance of hitting. So that's the math behind it about why it's positive value. So the true line, like I said, is at minus 125. We're getting the 15-point difference at minus 110. Unfortunately, like I said, this didn't go well for me last night, but because I've been doing it for so long, and I've trusted the process, to steal a term from my Sixers team, I've been able to profit as much as I have. So this is just since week 2 of NFL season, about $2,300. The positive value itself is $1,600 of that. And basketball, I've only done positive expected value betting, and I've gotten that, like, as you can see, over 1,000. So that's why all the pending bets. Obviously, I have more than just football. I have a lot of basketball in there as well, and those will be future videos. But for today's video, for the Thursday night game, just to recap, my 2 bets are Chase Edmonds over 38.5 rushing yards, either on DraftKings or BetMGM at minus 115, and Kyler Murray over 25.5 rushing yards, Caesars minus 110. So those are my 2 bets. If you have any questions, if you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. You can find me at Modi_sports. You can also hit me up on email at Matthew@oddsjam.com. And that's all I got for you. So happy betting, happy watching, and good luck.